Hello, my name is Nicola Haney. I'm a coach. I help people achieve the things that they want to do, both in their personal and their professional lives. And the reason I'm doing these videos, it's kind of off the back of something I started doing at the beginning of lockdown, which were 8:30 a.m. videos, where just creating a bit of space to start the day positively. So I want to do that on a more regular basis in a sustainable way. So I think it's just such a good idea to create space in our days or in our weeks just to sit and reflect and think about things so that we can also try new things and play with ideas and that sort of thing. So that's what this is. Also, I am attempting to record everything in just one enthusiastic go. So it probably won't be perfect, but hopefully you'll find it useful anyway. So today, the topic that a lot of people have been asking me about is particularly relevant to the situation right now. How do we go into this second lockdown in a sort of calm way without getting depressed or feeling really worn down by it all? So yeah, super difficult time. But I think it also taps into something that can happen generally, which is being comfortable with a lot of uncertainty. How do we do that? How do we sort of anchor ourselves down in times that are really uncertain? So I'm going to use obviously what's going on right now with the pandemic, but it can easily be applicable to other circumstances in life. So a couple of things to say before I launch into some tips. And the first is that it's really also important to feel how you're feeling. I know that I have definitely felt all sorts of emotions in the last few days, like sad, annoyed, just a bit depressed, worn down. And I think it is really important to feel those feelings. Like, you can't pretend to be happy about the situation. It's really okay to like dig into that feelings and just sort of process them. But what's useful, obviously, is not to stay there or dwell there, because that's not going to help you get through the next however long month, say. So yeah, feel your feelings. That's the first thing to say, because we can't not. So it's, just don't punish yourself if you're feeling a bit woeful. The second thing I think is good to bear in mind is just that, this won't last forever. There will be a time when we are on the other side of this. So everything that I'm about to say, it's with that undercurrent of this isn't a forever state that we are going to be in. So the tips are just for this sort of really difficult period. So the first tip is fairly simple, really, and that is in a time of complete uncertainty, all you can do is focus on the things that you can control. And I think at a time like this, it's literally just taking one day at a time. So I think what we can do is we have a tendency to let all our thoughts expand out, and we're worrying about the future, especially right now, like what's going to happen for Christmas and all these different things, or looking backwards in the past, like, oh, I used to go out dancing and that was really fun, I can't do that anymore. So all your thoughts get really expanded. So I think it's really useful to kind of imagine it's like a bubble and bring everything back in and just focus on one day at a time. It's also like that car analogy, like a car driving through fog. You've got your headlights on, but you can only really see 1 meter ahead. So it's, we can only focus on that 1 meter ahead of us. So I would relate that now to the just focusing on one day at a time. So yeah, I think what that translates to is just being comfortable each day, trying to dig in and find a little bit of pleasure in each day, just asking yourself, what small thing can I do today to enjoy it? Some nerdy things that I've been doing, just to like give some ideas, is I've gotten into jigsaws. So just sort of smaller things that you can focus on, or it might be that you go out for a walk to get a nice coffee, or just bring everything back in. So that's kind of the first thing to talk about. The second thing is for those of us who are working from home, I think it's such a tough thing to be working from home right now. And something that really helped me in the first lockdown was reading somebody that said, you know, we're not working from home right now. We're trying to survive through a pandemic where we're all stuck at home. I think that's such a good distinction to make, because the tendency is to just on a working day think, oh my God, I've got all this work to do, and try to be like madly productive. When actually what we should be thinking about is keeping ourselves completely sane, and as I was saying before, finding small things to feel good about, to enjoy. So important is to be making sure that you take breaks, to do whatever you like though. I think that's the important thing. So for me, it might be doing a bit of a jigsaw or reading a chapter of a book that I'm really into. Or sometimes it's taking a nap, like taking a 15-minute nap. And you feel good about those things because these are things that you wouldn't get to do if you were in the office. You can just sit at your desk with a book. you imagine. But what we would do at work is interrupt each other and chat. You might go to the kitchen and make a coffee and chat away. And I think, you know, we lose a lot of time at work just chatting and being sociable. And whilst we're not getting that so much at the moment, you get to decide and give yourself permission to just sneak in like little enjoyable breaks during the day, and yeah, just enjoy them. Like, you have full permission to do that, because there's no like guidelines on how to look after yourself at the moment. So you get to set them for yourself, and it can't be just following the old work day in the office. So the last thing to think about just now is the environment that we're in is winter. We're coming into winter. I think a lot of people have been talking about how bleak that is, and how the second lockdown is going to be so hard because it's winter. But something I think would be useful to ask yourself is, what can you decide to enjoy about winter? So I'm actually somebody who loves autumn and winter, but obviously right now it's still a bit tough. But you can choose to enjoy aspects of it. So I've gotten a bit into the Danish, hygge. I had to look up how to say that because I was saying hygge. So it's Hygge. And that is about sort of celebrating and just enjoying the coziness and comfort of winter. And yeah, so I've been trying to do that. And it's even things like just getting under a blanket and warming yourself up, or lighting a candle and just enjoying that for a little bit. So it's the much smaller things, again, that can, going back to what I was saying, it's looking for just the small things that you can do to find a bit of joy in the day. And I think another thing that we can do for winter is adjust our timetable. Because we've only got a finite amount of light every day, we have to maximize that time. So it might be that you, instead of going for an evening walk, you switch that to lunchtime and just, get out and enjoy any sort of daylight, no matter what it is. And I know you might be thinking, but it's winter, like it's not, what if it's raining? So I think it's useful to be talking to a Scot with this, because in Scotland we have this sort of attitude that it's there's no such thing as bad weather, just bad wardrobe choices. So when I've caught myself kind of being a bit grumpy about like the cold and the wet and you not being able to walk so much, actually I sort of realised, no, well, if I was going on a hike, I would approach it totally differently, because you expect, some bad weather, that it's going to be cold. So I am genuinely stomping around London right now with my full hiking gear, even just at a lunchtime, just putting on genuinely my walking boots, because I know they keep my feet dry, and my anorak, and just going out for a walk with a coffee. And you just know every day that you get the daylight, and it's so good for us. And also it helps like get you out of your mind, or you start having thoughts, or suddenly whatever I've been working on, usually kind of I have an idea of how I want to approach it and that kind of thing. So it can be really useful. And I think the other thing with regards to winter and coming into lockdown is that we have to lean back into our sense of community, and that probably does mean more group Zoom calls and that kind of thing. But I think we can do some things that kind of learn from maybe the Zoom fatigue that we felt after the first lockdown. So a few things I've been trying that have been working quite well is trying to create different things to do on Zoom calls that isn't obviously a pub quiz. I think everybody's a bit sick of them. But that isn't just chatting and catching up, because you tend to just talk about how things are going, and you know, sometimes it can be, you feel like you're having the same conversation over and over. So for example, I've recently been doing the crossword with my parents, and that's just been really nice, because you know, you're using your brain and you're doing something that we might have all done if we were together, but just doing it over Zoom, and it worked really well. So that, or another thing that I've been doing is having video nights with people, but even in your respective homes, but you all choose the same film to watch and you press play at the same time, and then you might have a chat about it afterwards. Another thing is having dinner with friends. So either you make the same dinner and you sit down together, or you just sit down for dinner. But I think that a key thing is that you kind of limit the time you spend, that you just maybe say, oh, should we catch up for an hour and have dinner? Because I think when you time box the calls, it feels less like, oh God, you know, we've just got endless, you know, an evening of just staring at the screen constantly. So I think it's good to always sort of set, oh yeah, I've got an hour for this call, or set a bit of a time box on it. So that's some just thoughts on how to go into this next phase and stay calm and centered whilst there's so much around you on the external side of things that we can't control. So it's just staying focused on, you know, the short term, what we can control, just taking one day at a time. Changing the way that we work, so we're not just working from home, but actually we're really thinking about how to look after ourselves, and really giving ourselves permission to just pepper our day with nice things to look after ourselves. And then lastly, just adapting for winter and embracing it, because again, that's something else that we can't change. So hopefully that's been useful. If you want any more information on me or on coaching, you can go to the website, which is in the notes underneath. So everybody have a lovely rest of the day and stay safe, and we'll catch up again soon.